Welcome to another episode of Gender Pop. I'm your host, Carly, and you're listening to a podcast that loves to discuss our relationship with gender through the lens of pop culture. Corinna is the guest today. She is a stellar artist who has worked on everything from graphic design, illustrating children's books, and even painting town murals. She is also an incredible support to fellow creatives and a lovely person to boot. Our topic today is the 1994 film Little Giants. It's wholesome, it's nostalgic, and who doesn't love some Rick Moranis? Let's get into it. Hi, so thanks for coming on to Gender Pop. It's really great to have you. I'm excited to talk to you about Little Giants.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So, Little Giants came out in 1994. It's from Amblin Productions, which is Steven Spielberg's production company. Um, I learned a lot about the behind the scenes stuff, but we can talk about that a little later. Usually, I like to start off with just giving kind of a general synopsis of it. I usually just go into IMDb because their synopses are always a bit funny to me. They're always quite vague. It says Misfits form their own opposing team to an elite Pee Wee football team coached by the elite team's coach's brother. Wow, that's really there's not a lot of finesse to that one. It's a lot.
No, very oversimplifies it, but yeah.
So yeah, that's a pretty bare bones thing about what it's about. But I'll just go ahead and start and ask you why you chose this to talk about.
Well, this movie, I was really racking my brain, probably overthinking what movie I should pick, but this movie popped up. It was the first one that popped up, and then as I would think about other movies, I couldn't move away from this one. I think it just really impacted me as a kid, and I was like, I think this has to be the one I have to talk about.
Awesome. Yeah. So I remember when you first brought it up as the one you wanted to talk about, that you specifically cited the character of Icebox, which
Uh-huh.
is the main lead, or at least the main child lead. Um, and she's gasp, a girl that likes to play sports. And
I
so
know.
so of course she's a girl that's surrounded by a bunch of other guys who just desperately wants to play football. So what about that character really spoke to you?
I was gonna say, I was like, she's so much more than just a girl who wants to play sports, right?
True.
She's a
Hmm.
girl who defies the gender norms of what it means to be a girl.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Icebox was someone who I could see myself in. I mean, plain and simple. And there weren't a lot of characters like that on TV. I mean, the 90s, that time period is a pretty great time of filmmaking, especially for girls. So I shouldn't complain too much. But in general, you don't see a lot of characters like Icebox. And they just did
Hmm.
so many things so well with her character. I mean, I am talking as an adult now, whereas,
Hmm.
obviously as a child it was a little bit different, but there's a reason that this film has stuck with me, and how Icebox moved through that film, as her character, was really unique and impactful.
Yeah, when I was watching this was the first time that I've seen it. I don't know. I mean, we're the same age, so I'm surprised that I never watched it when I was a kid either. It somehow flew under the radar for me. But I think I would have had a similar experience as you if I watched it as a kid, and I'd had this similar experience watching it even now where I related to her a lot, where I've never been like a girly girl, and I played ton of sports growing up, and also like her whole struggle with like wanting to seem girlfriend material, you know, she's kind of
Yeah,
entering that kind of
I
more
love
puberty stage of
that.
her life. And I was
I love that.
yeah, me too.
I think you know, I love that you dove into the behind the scenes and stuff. I can't wait to hear what you brought up. But I was trying to find everything that helped me find words for, her character and what she meant and stuff. And everything I found was talking about how one of the best parts about Icebox was that she did it all. Like
Hmm.
she was into sports and rough and tumble, and she had crushes, and she was swooning over a boy. Like she was doing all those things together and showing the world that, like, yeah, girls are not one dimensional. We're not just pretty things. Like we still are attracted to boys and we still might want to be rough and tumble too, and that is, I think, what all of us really love about her character.
I mean, that's why that tagline from IMDb is so vague because like I found myself surprised at the depth that was involved in this movie. Like I'm
Right?
surprised at kind of like the
Right?
amount of like thinking that I was doing and the nuance to things because I think a big kind of theme in this movie is that people contain multitudes and to not put
Yep.
people in boxes because like you see
Yep.
that with Rick Moranis's character too, her father, Icebox's father, in that he's like a dweeb, but he's able to help pull off the sports team and he can still get the girl as well because he starts, kind of courting the mom of one of the
I
players and all that
know.
stuff and the way he stands up to his brother, like I really loved I know more about Icebox's journey, but I found the brothers' relationship very, very fascinating. A lot of my notes ended up being about them because it's the classic kind of the popular guy. You think he has it all and has his life put together, but it's really the kind of underdog and his brother that's had more adversity in his life, who is a much more mature, well-rounded, well-adjusted kind of person who could teach his older
Yeah.
brother a thing or two. And how that, I think that the movie kind of is really great about showcasing why that is more valuable than just being like a jock who happened to be good at sports, which you can be both. Again, there's
Yeah.
just like with Icebox, whose name's also Becky, whose real name is Becky. You can, I mean, like, I think a big thing that this podcast will come back to is that we should all just accept and normalize and be okay with the fact that people can be anything, everything, both things at once, or
Yes.
sometimes they'll want to be like that during a day and this the next
Yes.
day. And it's like, if you want to wear a dress one day, that's cool. If you want to go like tumble around on a football field the next day, that's cool too. And um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I
And
think
that was
it's
me.
right well represented. Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I was never girly. I was never into dresses and makeup and all that stuff. But like,
Right.
again, that's why Becky's character is interesting because her arc with it isn't completely like seamless. Like she struggles with it and she compromises herself for it before she kind of learns that to be both is okay. Um,
Yeah, and I want to
yeah.
go into that more later, but I wanted to say I love that you kind of gravitated towards the brothers because I really do
Hmm,
see
hmm,
this film as being kind of two part. Like
hmm.
I can't really say that Icebox is the main character because the
Right.
brothers storyline really does take up half the film as well.
Hmm,
And I find it, it's funny because when I was looking into kind of people's analysis of the film, which there isn't a lot,
right.
most people aren't really overthinking this film. It's either women really appreciating Icebox,
Yeah.
or the other things I was finding were negative reviews about, oh, this film is just so predictable. It's not a great
Mm.
football movie. I'm like, it's not meant to be.
Right. That's
Like
not
I
what
I
it's
just find
about.
it's yeah, I'm like the movie is just a vessel for this other really powerful story and you're clearly missing the
If
point
you're going
because
into it for a sports movie, like, yeah, you're already going to start off on the wrong foot. That the sports is just a vehicle for what they're trying to say.
exactly, exactly. And like the predictability is
Mm,
I think is important because you're not meant to be focused on, oh, what's happening next. You're meant to just be
right.
enjoying the scenery while learning lessons from these relationships that are playing out on screen,
Hmm,
right? So, yeah, anyway, I don't know why I brought it back to that, but it was something I was thinking about while you were talking. So,
hmm, hmm. Well, I think the brothers' relationship speaks to so much else that happens in the film too, because I feel like, it's a lot of it's just about our struggles with identity and how Kevin, who is the older brother, is kind of the definition of someone who kind of peaked in high school and keeps clinging to that. And also how small towns uplift those sorts of characters and
right.
inflate those egos. Because it's
How
just
much do
like,
you think that's still how it is today, though? That's one thing I was
well,
thinking about while I was watching this movie because I was like, this culture of jock rules the world was
I've
so
lived
strong
it,
in the
so
90s. And now, we're in the tech bro kind of
right.
taking over the world stage. So I'm like, this is really interesting to be watching
It's
right now.
it's the same thing, just in a different body or in a different aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's another reason I could relate to this movie is because I grew up in a small town. I grew up with a lot of people that were like, not a lot of people, but people who were like Kevin. Some of them might even be in my family. So I
Oh my
really,
gosh.
yeah, so it is definitely one of those things where, popular person in high school never really leaves the town because it's a nice cocoon to stroke their ego with and they see that like so many other people kind of beneath them or they think it creates a very interesting kind of power dynamic being in that kind of incubator of a small town like that. And again, just keeping people in boxes because like Kevin could probably do more and has more to him as a
Right.
character, but he's also always been told and never given much of a chance to get outside of his kind of jock persona or I mean obviously he has his own business which is impressive but he's still kind of is made to probably feel like he has to operate within that one mode of being whereas Danny the younger brother Rick Moranis is I think it's a real case for like it is good to go through adversity because it builds character and it
Right,
allows you
right,
to
right.
grow as a person and learn as a person and he's the one that kind of doesn't let all that crap really get under his, I mean obviously he fights with his brother but he's I don't know I really liked his character because he's a great dad he stands up for himself and he is more assured in himself than Kevin even though on the outside Kevin is the one that you would think with having it all and everything so
He's honestly, his character is amazing. You said it like he's such a good dad.
hmm
I was so impressed even now watching it. Like
hmm
didn't matter what Icebox was
hmm
deciding. He was supporting her. Like she went one way, he supported her. She went the other way, he supported her. Like she builds this football team. He's like, all
He
right, I'll
does it all
coach
for
it.
her
Like,
because he's like I loved his pep talk where he's like, being cut from this team just gives you the opening to join another, but that wasn't good enough. She's like, I really just want this one thing. And he's like, all right, I'll make it happen for you. And yeah, I think it really just warmed my heart because I think in a lot of ways he reminded me of my own dad too, who coached me through all
oh,
of my sports growing up and
no.
also never ever ever once told me I couldn't do something just because I happened to be a girl or a woman. That was like never something. I don't know if he ever even that thought ever even crossed his mind
Oh,
having a
I
daughter
love
in
that.
life. So it's nice to see that portrayed on screen and it makes me grateful to have had a dad like that.
Yeah. And you see that with his character too. Like it doesn't even cross his mind that
hmm
she should only behave a single way. Like he's
hmm
just like this is who she is and he just supports her no matter what.
Even when
Ah, I
she
loved
becomes
it.
like a cheerleader, which he knows,
Yeah,
at
that's what
least
I
at
mean.
the
Like she goes
time,
that way. Yeah.
yeah.
He's not like, "Oh, well you committed to the team. Oh, well you should." No, he's just like, "Yeah, cool."
Or, oh, I
And then
thought
she
you
comes
weren't
back and he's like,
this.
"Yeah,
Yeah.
cool."
He
And
lets
he looks at
her
her
live her
with
life.
such like yeah, he looks at her with such, fatherly admiration. Like I just oh, it's so sweet.
Yeah, he lets her figure out who she is for herself, which not enough people or parents or anybody kind of affords enough people to do in life. And so he's a great role model for a dad, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, I don't know, I got annoyed with the whole like subplot of her trying to um get with Junior, he's the guy from he's the boy from Casper, right? I think he's the
I
boy
don't
from Casper.
know.
That's how
I
I kept
actually
referring
only
to him
yeah, I only
as.
saw Casper once as a kid, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Wait, so I'm curious, why did that plot line annoy you?
Because she was compromising herself to for a boy's attention. In the end, it
See,
worked out because he obviously came around to liking her for who she was and being fine with, I mean, like I knew that they would probably get together at the end and be happy, but I mean, it's not, I don't really think it's like the boy's fault and stuff because of course, especially as kids, you're kind of told what to like and who you should go for and all that stuff. And he's like, well, I'm the jock, so I'm going to go for the cheerleader kind of a thing. But like, and I
yeah,
get
see,
like she's a kid too, so I'm not gonna
I
like.
loved how honestly they explored that actually.
Mhm.
I think it's honestly kind of mind-blowing how well they explored that whole thing. They didn't make it this thing where she was obsessed with him and she completely gave herself up and then he went for her and they had a kiss and whatnot. They didn't do that. They had an honest conversation where
Hmm.
she presented him with a question he hadn't thought about before.
Mm.
And the first thing that comes into his mind is what society tells him,
Right.
right? It's,
Hmm.
well, I think I'm going to go for a chiller. But he didn't know. He was just trying to
Right.
answer a question. And then he backed out because he was like, this is weird. Like, you're my friend, and why are we talking about this? I'm not even interested in this stuff right now.
Yep.
But she's clearly thinking about it because hormones,
Hmm.
because all the things. And then the other thing that I loved is that it wasn't just about her attraction to him. If you remember, she has that whole interaction with her dad where she brings her mom into it, and her mom called her a princess.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I found that I want to talk about that scene because I honestly don't fully know what to think about it, but I know there's a lot there. Like that's what I love. Like they kind of layered this inner conflict she starts to go through. And I don't think it's about changing herself for him. I think she's having a moment where she's trying to define for herself,
Mm.
what does it mean to be a girl and what do I have to do to be accepted in this world? And she's thinking about what her mom said, and she's
Hmm.
thinking about how she's been with her dad, and she's thinking about what she thinks Junior would want, right? And what Junior
Yeah.
is expressing he thinks he would want. And
Right.
she explores it, right? She's like, maybe I do need to do that. Maybe that is who I need to be. Do I like this? She puts the lipstick on. Do I like how I look with this? Now she's hiding it from her dad because he
Hmm.
doesn't know her
Hmm.
that way and she doesn't know how to express herself that way.
Hmm.
Then she sneaks over to her uncle's house to talk to her aunt and then gets this cheerleader outfit. She's still hiding it from her dad. I found that so interesting. Like,
Mm.
what is it about this relationship with her dad where she has to be Icebox, right? And
Hmm.
she says that at the end too when she comes back as the football player. She's like, "Call me Icebox, Dad." But then she turns to Junior and goes, "Call me Becky." You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
I think they explored this so well and so honestly of what, especially women like us who, we don't relate to being girly, and we
Hmm.
that was my thing growing up. All these girls around me that were into shopping and into makeup, I'd just be like, I don't get it. I just didn't get it. I didn't find any of it interesting. I
I
didn't
still
care.
don't.
Yeah, I same. Like
But
it's still not
obviously, I've arrived at the point where I'm not like antagonistic towards it. I'm like, it's not for
right.
me, but it's for other people, and that's great.
Right, exactly. And so anyway, I lost my train of thought, but
Sorry.
no, no, no. It's not your fault. My brain just has trouble because it'll jump around. And so I get distracted and then I'm like, wait, what was that again? It's like a rabbit, like, oh, new rabbit trail. I'm gonna go down this way. But no, I loved it. I loved how they did that. And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
in the end, she fully embraces like this is what I love and this is what I'm gonna and not only that, I love the details. Whoever you know more about the behind the scenes and who wrote it, and I didn't go into all that, but like the people who put this film together really thought about these details because when she goes back and she puts her football uniform on and she still has her cheerleader skirt on, that
Yeah,
says
yes.
so much, right? In that moment of she can be both. You know what I mean? Like, and she's not even full blown girly all of a sudden. She's just like, I'm still feminine, right? This is just what being feminine means to me, and it includes being rough and tumble. It includes playing football. It includes me being Icebox, but I am Becky. And I feel like that was my journey growing up. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
I really pushed away what was like traditionally feminine things because of how much the extreme of it didn't make sense to me. And I
Yeah.
kind of went through a similar sort of process of, wait a minute, I do still like flowers and I do still want to wear a dress sometimes. And I might not be like super high maintenance or be super, put myself together all the time, be super girly. But like there are still elements of that I can embrace and it's still feminine in my own way. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah,
Or that
I
stuff
loved it.
shouldn't be like gendered in the first place. Like liking flowers, let
Right.
everyone like flowers. Like it's kind of like
Right.
a slow deconstruction kind of the kind of like you were saying, kind of the extremes that were kind of shown and taught when we're kind of kids. So like slowly, because like obviously a lot of adolescence is kind of figure out who you are and exploring things and kind of putting on different identities to see what feels like true to you. And so I think you make a lot of really great points about how the film handled it. And I think I get too on my high horse about how we're still so kind of divided in our view of gender that when I see stuff in films I'm like, no, we should be past these by now without kind of considering like the context of it and the time of it, and also that it's not
Sometimes it's a
black and
process.
white about it. Yeah, like
Yeah, sometimes you have to have an honest, messy look at it, and it's like you
yeah.
have to show that, like, no, we still face these questions even today, even without the extremes. We
Hmm.
still have to ask ourselves these questions and kind of go through the process of figuring out who we are and how we balance these things out, especially in the face of what the world kind of dictates
Hmm.
are the rules. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, because yeah, my oldest, my boy, he loves flowers, and I am always like, the
Oh.
world better not freaking take that from him.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm. Yep.
if at any point somebody, some peer of his, polices him on that. Because they
Hmm.
police on so many things, right? There's so many things of like, that's girly or that's this. And it's like,
Hmm.
shut up. don't don't you dare start building some weird twisted mentality. So I actually
Giving
can
him a
really relate.
complex about things that don't need it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I totally relate to kind of what you're saying about not, I wouldn't say getting on your high horse, but kind of
just a
bristling,
knee jerk.
right?
It's a knee jerk reaction because, of
Yes,
course, it's
yeah,
so
having
close to
these,
my own experience. And I'm just like, no, you're betraying
no,
yourself. Don't
I
do
have
it.
those all the time.
It's constant work in
I
progress.
don't, yeah, there are things that people say, oh gosh, I'll just be having a conversation with another parent, right? And they'll make a comment about something about boys or something about girls, and I'll do the same thing. I'll just have this knee-jerk reaction. But I think because I experience that so much since I have kids and I am around other parents and stuff all the time, I think I've just developed okay, tone it down. You don't need to react. You know what I mean? Very gently, kind of. I've learned to just make alternative comments.
Mm, hmm. Hmm.
Oftentimes it'll just be like, "Oh, my daughter really likes that too," or and just kind of, I don't know, not plant the seed, but kind of like be that voice of like,
By the way, it
"Hey,
doesn't have to just be for
yeah,
boys.
yeah, it's not singular. Like, also, this is not how I view gender." Like,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Well, I also liked that Becky's cousin Debbie, who is a much more kind of stereotypical portrayal of a girl. She's the cheerleader, kind of all-American, who is kind of gotten the attention of the person she has a crush on. I like that Becky never like shits on Debbie. Like
yep,
I
or
feel
vice
like
versa.
yeah, yeah, that they're never pitted against each other, which so often happens with female characters of any age. I like that it's never like she never takes out her kind of frustrations onto Debbie and like you said, vice versa. And that they still, are friendly and nice with each other and everything. And I really thought that that was what was going to happen. So, and I thought that was a very kind of a much more kind of mature take on it than a lot of other films would have done.
No, it was great. Again, another subtle detail that I felt like was full of intention,
Hmm. Hmm.
just how it wasn't just that they were friendly to each other. They had a bond. You could tell, like,
Hmm.
she was excited to come and share with her cousin about whatever it was she had to say, and
Hmm.
then she goes and often flirts with Junior, and Becky's not sitting there making any negative comments about her or
Yep.
sneering at her or anything. She's just sad that,
It's not
is
her.
that who I have to be to get
Yeah.
Junior? I don't know. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I loved that. I think they really thought about those little details. Either that or the people who made this movie are just
Well, would you be
so.
surprised to know there wasn't a single woman that wrote on this film?
I
Doesn't
mean,
mean they weren't consulted, but
no, I mean, no, because I think we forget, especially in this day and age where, um, uh, I don't want to get on a tangent, but I had a conversation recently with a friend where we were talking about how much things have shifted in the last 10 or 15 years. And, when it comes to sexism and men's perception of women. And I mean, obviously, patriarchy has existed for forever, and we
mm,
have all these stereotypes that we've been living through. But I really do think that the 90s were different.
yeah.
And we've had a lot of cultural mouthpieces. I won't name names on your podcast, but certain people who have been big influences in culture, especially in, among men, that have swung the pendulum so extremely in one direction now, where it doesn't feel like this movie, right? And so it doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me. I think that there was a different view during this time, that was healthier, and more prevalent. Because in this conversation, I was talking about how when I was, you know, probably up until my early 20s, I was very comfortable around men. I was very comfortable having relationships. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel objectified all the time. I didn't feel like it was always about, you know, it felt like this movie a lot of the time, like we were accepting of each other and we could have a
Hmm.
conversation, and it doesn't feel like that now. You know, it does feel like things have kind of swung into an extreme over the last decade or two. So
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you were saying to what you were saying about you sensing a difference in your kind of feeling safe or not around men from the 90s to now, or just growing up between those two times. Um, I feel like for me, it's more that I'm much more cognizant of how I'm being treated and like understanding sexism more. So I
Yeah.
feel like it's kind of like once the veil's pulled over your eyes about that stuff, it will dramatically or not, depending who you are or your environment, change you and how you move through the world and subsequently how you feel in terms of safety. I feel like I'm more vigilant than I used to be, and some of that could just be the innocence of youth.
Yeah.
Um, and also maybe feeling immune to it because I didn't feel like I was being perceived in a lot of
Yeah.
the ways that women often are. But as I've grown up and I've become wiser about how that stuff functions and knowing that that's not necessarily even a factor in someone trying to kind of have control and power over you in that way,
Right.
it
I think those
probably,
are
yeah,
all layers of it for me as
yeah,
well. You know, it's not all just one thing for me. Those are
yeah.
all definitely part of it. I definitely grew up. I remember when I was younger, I didn't understand why feminists were needed. Like I was just like, wait, like
We've already
what?
done
But
that.
yeah, I was just like, I don't understand. And then as I grew up, it's like everything you're saying, you know, just becoming
Hmm.
more aware, more educated, having different experiences. But
Hmm.
again, I think our paths are just very similar. So I think a lot of what you're
Yeah.
saying I can definitely relate to. I just have also noticed, again, another layer of it
Hmm.
still being kind of a part of the culture, almost in a way becoming radicalized, if that makes sense. It's almost like we
Yeah.
were making these moves in the 90s
Social
and,
media.
right, trying to make these pushes and shifts of progress for women. Um, and we're speaking specifically about gender here. Obviously, there's other social issues
Yeah.
that have
Hmm.
also had movements and stuff in there, but we're
For
speaking
sure.
specifically about women here. And I think that, like you said, like okay, social media coming up, and then some men's response to it. And when some of those men become really loud, especially amplified through social media, I think there's been an element of radicalization that has also happened in the
Hmm.
last decade or so. And so I think that is what I'm talking about. Like, yes, everything you're saying, I think that, you know, we grew, and whatever little spheres we were raised in that made us feel safe, suddenly now we're exposed to,
Hmm.
oh,
Hmm.
patriarchy is very real and very big and very ingrained
Yeah.
and has a huge impact on our lives. And now it's kind of altered how we feel, you
And
know,
even like
and
internalized how, I mean, like even
right.
recognizing how
Oh
that
God.
seeped into my
Oh
own
Lord.
thinking about things, whether it was about like my body image or the way that I acted around boys and men or
Uh,
how I thought I was
and
supposed to be presenting. And I'm like, wait, I'm not doing that for myself. Why am I participating in this? Cut it
okay.
out.
But the thing about that internalized patriarchy, right,
Hmm.
is very hard to undo. And this is why I
Yeah.
struggle with not demonizing, but like being really negative towards women who still struggle with it, right? So people really like to speak down to a pick me girl, right?
Mm.
Whereas I will look at somebody like that and be like, that woman is trapped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there is so much work to be done. And the thing is,
Hmm.
when you are so deep in it and you don't realize it, how are you going to get out of it? You know what I
Yep.
mean? First of all, you have to realize that you have internalized patriarchy, and then you have to do the work. And that work takes years. And I don't know
Mm.
if
Yeah.
we'll ever be done doing that work. I still find things, now in my
Hmm.
adulthood that I'll have to be like, oh, wait, that's something I need to undo too. Like it is layer upon
It's
layer of
insidious that way.
socialization that has been taught to us that we have to recognize and address. And that takes a lot of effort. And so, I mean, if it's somebody who is a pick me and they are just like, they will not,
Well, some
sure.
people act that way because they know it'll get them what they want or they can monetize it or something. And
Right.
when like behind the scenes, they're not actually like that. And
Oh God.
that's
Again,
really
add social
disgusting.
media, add the disingenuous
Yes.
nature of people and the face that they put on, sure. But I'm talking outside of it too. Like I'm talking
Yeah,
just on
yeah.
everyday, day to day people that we know, the way that
Hmm.
people operate, based on the behaviors that they learn and they don't
Hmm.
necessarily realize that they've learned. So
Well, I
yeah,
think that's
anyway, that's all I'm
probably
saying is that there's layers to it, and I think all of it plays a role. So
I mean, it connects back to this movie because that's probably what was happening with me when I was seeing Becky like starting to explore like dresses and makeup and like trying to get the attention of that boy and stuff, where I was just like, no, but I'm like, of course, I'm coming to it as an adult who's kind of had to learn that, where she's just beginning to kind of go through that. And also just my own, I mean, it was almost hypocritical because it was kind of playing into the same thing that people were doing to her in the film of like, no, you said you were a tomboy, so you always got to stay in that lane. And if you eschew that in any way, everyone's gonna like side eye you and think you're weird and stuff. And I'm just like, often there has to be some sort of grace period allowed to let people, yeah, like we were saying, kind of really explore who they are. And like maybe she continued to wear dresses and maybe she didn't, but that's not the point. It's just that she was
yep.
allowed that time and that space to at least try it out.
And to just be who she is, whatever that means.
Yeah.
That's my big thing with my kids. Like when they come home and they come home with something that was policed at school, I'll just be like, well, do you like that? Does that make you feel good? Do you enjoy that? Then who cares? You know what I mean? Like what matters
Yeah.
is that you're expressing yourself, and that's what I want to see you do. Okay, going back to this kind of idea of both, right? Of
Hmm.
cheerleader and football player, of how you don't have to just be all one thing. That was a moment I really loved. It really struck me this time. I've seen this movie lots of times. It's one of my favorites. I've watched it a lot, and but I've never watched it with the purpose of analyzing it before. So, I think
Hmm.
I definitely picked up on things. But that moment where she's sitting in the, what do you call them? Is it not a cafe,
Oh,
a
just like at the
diner? Oh, the
diner.
diner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
diner. I
the
just couldn't think of
the
the word.
bar at the diner where you sit on
Yeah,
stools
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
And her uncle comes in and they have their little chat. And then as he's
Hmm.
leaving, I mean, he does,
Mm.
put some of society's expectations on her
Yes.
for sure. But as he's leaving and she asks him, and I just love this moment.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, she goes, Uncle Kevin, do you think I'm pretty? And he goes, No, I think you're beautiful. I
Hmm. Hmm.
love that moment so much because as much of a jerk as her uncle can
Hmm.
be, and he's very narcissistic and all these things,
Hmm.
I think he meant that. And I don't think
Hmm.
he meant you have to be a cheerleader to be beautiful. I think he does, in that moment, accept her for who she is and he sees her as beautiful. And I
Yes.
love that. And the thing that like really hits me about that moment is, okay, when I was younger, like I have very vivid memories of like in middle
Hmm.
school trying makeup, right?
Hmm.
I was like, okay, I don't get it. I don't like it, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna go to school. And
Hmm.
everybody would comment on how nice I look. And
Mm.
I hated it. I hated it. I was like, why can't you tell me I look nice when I'm not wearing makeup? Like, I was
Yeah.
just like,
Hmm.
why do I have
Hmm.
to put makeup on for you to tell me I look nice? So this moment where she's in her icebox clothes, she's just her little self
Hmm.
over there, and he's like, no, I don't think you're pretty. I think you're beautiful. In that moment with her exactly as she is, I was like, this is the moment I wanted my whole life. Like, I was like, I just wanted
Right.
somebody to tell me I was beautiful exactly how I was without having to put makeup on, without having to be something. I love
Yeah.
that moment.
Well,
I
I
love
think
that
that's
moment.
because it in that split second, it kind of transcends gender, and you're just being seen as the person you are. They're
Yeah.
not, I mean, even though he said the stuff previously, like right before that conversation, but like, I think he kind of recognized what she was seeking and needing in that moment. And that's not to say that he didn't mean it, because I believe that he did too. But I think like the reason it meant something to you, the reason it affected me too when I saw that, because I really loved that moment as well, is because he was just looking at her as a person, as his family
Yeah.
member that he loves, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And um and that she was someone seeking validation in that moment, because with their talk he could see that she was kind of going through a tough time or whatever. And that yeah, that it doesn't, it kind of transcends any sort of like gendered thing, because I had a similar thing with makeup where like also in middle school where I wore eyeliner for the first time for Halloween to go along with my costume.
Uh-huh.
And um I just ended up liking it, so I just wore it to school like the next day or whatever, and everyone was like commenting on it, and I was just like, damn it, I guess this is my life now.
Oh
Like,
no.
and like,
Oh
I mean,
no.
yeah, I mean, I still use eyeliner every now and then, but still not a big makeup person, but like it definitely, it was like before eyeliner and after eyeliner. Whereas
Well, let me
I
just throw a wrench into it for my experience growing up because I grew up in a family that thought wearing makeup was bad, was wrong. And
mm-hmm,
so I would go to school and get those comments, right? But then I get
mm-hmm.
come home.
Oh,
Oh man, and I'd
poor
just
little
use
Corinna was just like tug of war. Is it
oh
good? Is it bad? I can't tell. In
oh
one space
gosh,
they want it, one.
I'd put mascara and eyeliner on, and my dad would be like, "Did someone punch you in the face?" Like I'd be like, "What the heck?"
He's like, you need to figure out your beat, girlfriend.
Oh Lord, so funny, but it's such an interesting thing to look back on, and I don't know
Yeah.
how I made it out of that. I don't know how I made any decisions.
I know. It's like, I mean, but that just like speaks to the whole kind of folly and experience with youth, right? Is that I mean, everyone's a continual work in progress until they die, I believe. But, growing up as a particular, just every day is like a existential crisis. Like, so, um,
Yeah,
so
well,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I mean, I was gonna ask you a question, so
Hmm.
whatever you have
Go
to
for
say,
it.
go for
I
it.
was going to do the same
Oh,
thing, so go ahead.
well, I was gonna say you at the beginning you were talking about how you got into all the behind the scenes stuff, and I was curious what you had picked up.
Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of it doesn't necessarily have to do with gender stuff, but I did come across a panel that the woman who played Becky did, and then the man who played Spike did like I think it was like 5 years ago. It was at like some like Comic-Con type event convention. So I watched that, and they just gave a lot of like behind the scene tidbits, and they kind of just kept going on about how it was a super long audition process, that they were saying that they had to audition like 13 times, that the production company or like the scouting arm of the production company went around to like every single place in the US, malls, which were still a thing then, scouting for
Wow.
people, because it was Amblin in the 90s. So like Steven Spielberg had just come off doing like Jurassic Park and Schindler's List, so he was riding high. His production company had like all the money, so I guess that also necessitated a super long kind of production as well. Um, the actual filming took forever too. They actually ended up not being able to even do like much promotion for it, because it just ran into when it was supposed to like come out in the summer. It came out in October, and suddenly they were like, it just kind of dropped into theaters. What else? There was different endings.
Oh,
But they didn't
did it
specify
say
what
what the
that
other
was,
ending was?
unfortunately. No, I couldn't
Oh.
find any information on it. The director that was hired to do it was previously an editor, and this was his first feature film.
Oh, that's fun.
And unfortunately, he was not very adept at it. And that's why production went on for so long, and why they like
Oh
went over
no.
budget. And he ended up actually basically getting fired, and they brought in another director to kind of do the last section of filming, which is mostly like the big football game at the end. Yeah, so that was seemed like it was a bit
Wow.
dramatic, but I was just so surprised that for this kind of movie that it would take that long, because in comparison to something like, and like I get that Steven Spielberg himself wasn't directing this, but like just to compare that they came up like from Jurassic Park, like a lot of the people that also worked on this were coming off of things like Jurassic Park and Schindler's List, which are like I feel like much bigger, heavier undertakings. But it's kind of nice, I guess, that they still kind of put in the investment in the same way into this. Yeah, and apparently there was supposed to be a sequel as well that never happened.
I don't know if I'm sad about that.
Yeah, I don't really think it's necessary. I think it was like I think it's because a lot of the other kind of kids and sports movies around the time kind of spun off into franchises and everything.
Yeah.
So they probably just thought that was like the natural next thing to
I
do.
was gonna
But
say it definitely sounds like a well, it was the thing to do kind of
yeah.
mentality when this movie was really great, just standalone. It's a cult
Hmm.
classic now. Like you didn't need a second one.
They also like had so many other people they were considering for the two brothers to who to play. Like instead of Ed O'Neill and Rick Moranis, they had people like they were considering Tom Hanks for Rick Moranis's character. Gary Busey was attached at one point for
Oh my
some
gosh.
unspecified role. I think John Goodman was attached at one point, or these are people they tried to reach out to. Yeah, like if you just go into like the IMDb trivia, like every other bullet point is just like different actors that they were considering. So it's kind of wild that it was such a arduous process apparently just putting this all together.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad this movie was made. It was a staple film for my childhood. Yeah, no.
I do have one
Sometimes,
more question that I'm
yeah,
interested into pertaining to like the gender stuff in it. What did you think of Kevin's wife?
yeah. It's such an interesting question. I loved his wife. I,
Hmm.
I, I thought she was great. She's another character who she is, you know. Um, she's very supportive of her family. I love the scene where what is he thinking? He's gonna tackle his wife? Like, that scene is so funny where, he's trying to train the boys
Hmm.
on tackling and he's pretending it's Icebox. And then he's like, I'm going to show you how to do it. And this poor woman is like, are you kidding me right now? And when he runs at her, she just gets out of the way.
Yeah, she's like, this is an easy pivot. Bye.
Yeah, I love that moment. And he just goes flying out the window. Um,
I,
I mean, she's just, she's not on screen a lot.
yeah.
I do think that at the end there, it's pretty telling and pretty funny. They did such a good job too. Like it's so humorous how she's cheering for the
Yep.
opposite team, and then at first she's like, "Oh no, oops, sorry, now I'm cheering for your team." But then at the end she's like, "Forget it, I'm cheering for the other team. I'm happy they won." I don't know. It's just great. I'm
I
not sure if you have anything specific you're looking at with her, but
well, I mean, my very professional first note about her was Kevin's wife rocks. Unfortunately, I don't know if I caught her name. I hate referring to her as just Kevin's wife. But do they
yeah.
give her a name? I don't know.
I don't remember.
Um,
Aunt something. No, she's yeah, they did give her a name
let's
because
see. I'm on the
um
cast page for it. So let's Karen. Karen?
okay.
Karen. It looks like that's probably who it
So
is.
Aunt Karen is how I'm gonna
Um,
know her as because she's a pretty great aunt.
I
You can
love,
tell.
well, it was interesting how they kind of introduced her because the way it's framed when they're at the kind of tryouts in the beginning, you think that she's like Danny's family and his wife. You don't find out until they're all kind of congregating at the end that like, oh, she's that because she's standing with Danny. There, she has another kid with her. He's like, she's like, oh, how's she doing and everything, showing interest in Becky and all that stuff. But what I really loved was like early on, she has that dinner conversation with Kevin about like why did he cut her, and he's basically is just like because she's a girl, and she likes it. That's not good enough. I just love that that's what she said. Like
Oh
that's not
yes.
a good enough
Oh, I forgot
reason.
about that moment.
Yeah, she just
Yes,
reads him for filth in that whole scene.
I think I just took her for granted. She's just like, it's a given that she's great to me.
Yeah.
I think I just took her for granted a little bit. But yeah, now that you're like really pointing her out, I'm
Hmm.
gonna have to rewatch and really notice how important of a role she does play because she really does. And you know, I'm trying to process it now. I wish I'd figured this out beforehand, but I didn't have a ton of women like her in my life
Mm.
growing up.
Hmm.
But I would notice them in like the moms of my friends, and I would always admire them. Yeah, so no, I absolutely love her. Again, right from the get-go, you can tell she's her own woman, and she challenges Kevin, and she,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, she's really great at what she does. I think she's the reason why Kevin can have those genuine moments too,
Yeah.
clearly, right? I
Hmm.
mean, and I mean, if you were to unpack people who get into relationships, I mean, there's clearly a reason somebody as
That's what I was
amazing
gonna
as her
say.
chose.
It's interesting that they both ended up together because she's much more progressive in her views than he
Yes,
is, we can say, and he kind of, but it's also like, well, they each obviously saw something in each other, and if he
yes,
how strong are his beliefs really if he's attracted to her, obviously enough to marry her, have a family with her, and like vice
yes.
versa as well. And I think it's nice that she kind of keeps him honest. And I think it's really interesting for his character. Not that, a woman should exist just to serve the male character, but like I think
But they
it
don't
just
have that relationship. And I
no, I think
think,
it's really interesting because I think it kind of shows that a lot of Kevin's posturing is just kind of bravado, or he's also doing what's
yes,
expected of him.
yeah, no, absolutely. I do think that that's the case. I think
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
there is an undercurrent to Kevin that we get to see through his wife.
Yeah.
And it also gives more weight to some of the moments that he has, like the one in the diner where he tells
Hmm.
Icebox she's beautiful, and the moment during the football game at the end
Hmm.
where she comes back in and uh Spike's dad is like, "Is that a girl?" And he's like, "That's my niece and she's pissed."
Yes.
Like, and he's very supportive of her in that moment because I think ultimately he's the kind of guy who does accept her. He's
Hmm.
just following society's expectations,
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, and you do see those layers in Kevin that way. And I love that. I love that they're not that type of him and his wife. I love that they're not the type of relationship where he's just mean to her and lording over
Yeah.
her. I think that's really great. And oh,
Because
there
he
was
doesn't
something else I was,
dismiss her either necessarily when she
yeah,
challenges him. He's
no,
not just
not at
like, "Oh,
all. He
shut
doesn't shoot
up,"
her
kind of a
down.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, he's just kind of his own. He's just kind of doing his own thing. And she's, eye rolling at him like, oh, you just don't get it or whatever, But
Don't
there
get
was something else
arrested
I was
again,
going to
please.
say. Oh man. Oh, they did all of those things so well. Again, all those details. Really, really great.
I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Especially since you said you've seen this a lot, and obviously it's a movie that's been with you throughout your entire life, or most of your entire life. And has your kind of understanding of Becky's art changed as you've gotten older or upon subsequent viewings of it?
I think I've just, as I've gotten older and, per what we were talking about earlier, realizing more and more about the world we live in, right? I think I've
Hmm.
just realized her value more. I think as a
Right.
kid, I didn't have the maturity to recognize what she meant to me. I just was gifted her as a
Mm.
character to empower me the way that she did. And then I started to recognize that what that empowerment was as I got older. That's all
Yeah.
I think. I don't think anything about her specifically has changed. I think I've
Hmm.
just gotten wiser about recognizing
Hmm.
what she's meant to me.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I mean, it's the whole like, if you can't see it, you can't be it type thing. Or even though you kind of already were existing in that space, it's can always be so validating and reassuring if you're not getting it anywhere else in your life necessarily. Or, oh, there are
Icebox,
other people like me out there and like they're badass. Like,
100%. She gave me permission to be the one who likes to beat up boys. I took such pleasure in being that tough girl on the playground who could put a boy in a headlock. Don't laugh at me,
oh
but
my God, I love it.
that yeah, I mean that was me in elementary school, and Icebox gave me permission to be that person and
There you
still be
go.
a girl.
Hmm.
It wasn't
Hmm.
weird. It wasn't
Yeah.
like I couldn't be a part of society. Like, no, this is just who I am. And so yeah, no, she was very important to me growing up. I don't think I realized how important. I think I took it for granted at the time. Again, we didn't know,
Sure.
we didn't
Yeah.
realize back then, like, why do we need feminists? We have Icebox. If Icebox can't exist, why do we need them? Well, grow up,
Mission
girl, and you'll
accomplished.
see. Like, yeah, you'll
Yeah.
see. She was
I
very
lied.
important and very needed. So,
I lied. I have one more question, but it's a fun one. What would your sports nickname be?
oh no. Oh no.
I
I
know. I
don't
didn't. I
know.
only thought of that just now. I didn't. It just came to my head. I think because it's Icebox is such an interesting one.
Yeah, like
And
I don't you want to know the story of where her name came from? I
well,
want to
it seemed
know
to be
what.
implied that she was because she's like impenetrable and she's icy because like at one point they were like I don't know her dad kind of implied like oh doesn't something that's ha currently happening like bother you and she's like no I'm the ice box or something like that when obviously it is bothering her but she's just kind of she too is posturing in that moment you know.
Gosh, I don't know.
I have red hair so I think I'd be like something like the Red Menace or something like that.
Oh, I love that. See, I'm terrible at coming up with anything cool at all, okay, let alone a nickname. Like I'm not a cool person when it comes to these ideas.
Being cool's overrated, and if you think you're cool, you're probably not. Be like Becky and be yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the qualities that make somebody cool are not really qualities I care about. So I'm good, you know. So I leaned hard into other weird names when I was a kid, and I don't want to go there. So
Hey,
we
understandable.
can table the thought for now.
Do you have any final thoughts about the movie and or just your relationship to it?
No, I don't. I feel like we've covered so many
Yeah.
things. My main final thought would have been just that
Hmm.
idea of she gave me permission to be myself,
Yeah.
and that
Hmm.
that is something that I have learned to value more and more as I've gotten older because there wasn't a lot of places in my life that gave me permission to be myself. I was caught in between two cultures. I was caught in
Hmm.
between um, two worlds in a lot of ways that made me very confused on
Yeah.
how to be in the world. And so the little pieces that I got from even characters like Icebox in the movie meant a lot to me. So yeah.
Well, may Icebox continue to inspire young girls everywhere.
Oh my gosh, do you remember I told you I really wanted my daughter to watch this movie with me?
Hmm.
I cannot even like fully capture how much of a fight she put up. She did not want to watch it. She did not want
Oh,
to watch this movie.
well, maybe she'll get to it in her own time.
It was ridiculous. It was just, and I mean, I didn't fight her in the end. I told her, I was like, I want you to watch it, but I'm not going to force you to watch this movie.
Yeah.
But I was just like, how does this happen? How do we become the parents who are like, this is amazing? And then, I mean, I'm not going to be the parent who forces her, but I think about all the times, that does happen.
Well,
But
I'd like to think years from now she'll watch it and be like, you know what, mom was right.
well, I mean, maybe I was gonna say the big thing is she's so different than me. She is
Hmm.
a stereotypical girly girl,
Yeah.
she loves the frills and the pink and I always knew I would have a daughter that was like that and I love it. I love her for who she is. But, she's not going to watch this movie and go, "Oh, I see myself in that character." She's going to watch this movie and be like, I don't like football. Why am I watching this movie?" So,
Hey, she'll have her own journey of exploring who she is and what she connects with and what she doesn't.
exactly. Exactly. And I mean, I think that's a really important thing for us as parents, right? Because I had the experience of not being fully understood for who I was. But I learned who I was in a specific way. And it's so
Mm,
easy for us as adults to then put our lessons on our kids. Well, I
yeah.
learned this, and I learned that this is the way to be in the world. But the reality is, what if she embraces a totally different way of being in the world,
Yeah.
And so being able to be cognizant of that and being able to support them no matter what, I think is really important. So that's why I didn't fight her. I was like, all right, not your
That's
movie. We
good.
can watch Descendants tomorrow night. You
There
know
you
what I mean? Because
go.
that's where she wants to go.
Hey, that's where she sees herself, maybe, you know, she's gonna take over
Yeah.
the world, clearly. Well, thank you for coming on and talking about Little Giants. It was a lot of fun, and
Oh,
I'm grateful that you basically introduced this movie to me because it somehow passed me by.
I love it. I love that I could share something so special with you. You know, we love our little movies together, so
Yeah,
this was the good one.
it's been a great talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That does it for the second episode. Woohoo! Please follow, like, and share the podcast because it needs all the love it can get. The link to GenderPop's website is in the show notes, and there you'll see a blog I post for each episode that dives a little bit deeper into it all for some extra fun. Also in the episode notes are the links to Corinna's work, which you should definitely give a look. Thank you so much for listening. Be well, take no shit, and I will be back soon enough with another round of Gender Pop.